Quick shout out to the two Uber comrades supporting my channel and this content on Patreon, my partner Rosa, and Independent Left News. Kiddo wants a shout out. She'll get a shout out, but not as a Uber comrade. She's not at that level of support at this time. So I just wanted to chat a little bit. Saw this article, kind of what the Berlin voters decided to do with regards to expropriating housing from landlords in Berlin. I believe this only applies to landlords who own over 3,000 units. And it looks like so the voters voted to support that measure, which would, I believe, create about 200,000 ish or so more housing units, social housing, units that would be at least rent controlled or maybe subsidized a little bit by the government. But it looks like it has some potentially legal or political hurdles to actually get put into reality to actually make that happen. So the story obviously is really cool to see, Berlin voters coming out in support of this. But what happens now, as the question, at the end of this title of the article, points out is important. So here we go. Fuck is that? DW and company Entigen expropriate Deutsche Wohnen and Company referendum campaign has now cleared all of its electoral hurdles, but not political hurdles, I would add. Vote has passed with a resounding yes vote of 56.4% in Sunday's poll in the capital. Crucially, more than 25% of all eligible voters in Berlin voted yes, a difficult requirement that has previously tripped up other popular campaigns. Berliners have spoken, and what they have to say is clear. They want city authorities to pass a law which would allow for the expropriation of what they call private real estate companies, specifically those that own more than 3,000 housing units. The campaigners say the companies would be compensated at a rate well below market value. And it points out in this article, like the 3,000 is kind of like an arbitrary number. There also appears to be some legal hurdles of the language around the compensation being well below the market value. They had there was a lot of effort just to get this on the ballot. As it says here, they had to collect 175 valid, handwritten, fully verified signatures. Even more difficult given that we're still in a pandemic. Not sure exactly what that looks like in the context of Germany. Probably not as bad as we have it here in the US. Now more than 1 million people have voted in favor in an official referendum, giving the measure powerful popular support. Deutsche Wohnen, which owns around 113,000 housing units in the city, is clearly the main target, but other companies would be affected, such as Vonovia, which is currently trying to buy Deutsche Wohnen and the Paris Group. Another is the Swedish company Heimenstaden, which announced on the night of the vote they had just bought 14,000 new homes. And I mean, Jesus Christ. Yet, this is an important part. The resounding popular vote does not mean the measure will become a reality. Huge legal and political barriers remain in the way, as I was alluding to at the start of this video. Regardless of the strength of the vote, the referendum is not legally binding, and the proposal will only become law if the ruling parties in Berlin Senate choose to make it so, and it appears there's not enough political support from these parties to actually do that, unfortunately. That casts the spotlight on the next Berlin government. Sunday's Berlin election results mean the left-leaning coalition of the SPD, so that's the Social Democratic Party of Berlin, so the Social Democrats, Democratic Socialist, however you want to parse that out. So they won. The Greens and the Left Party is likely to continue in power. However, the referendum vote will feature very prominently in coalition negotiations, and the parties are sharply divided on the proposal. The far left party strongly supports it, while the Greens have given a mixed message. The SPD, which is likely to remain the biggest party in Berlin after election, is opposed, as all other major opposition parties. So again, we have another case, Social Democrats siding with big business, siding with big real estate, siding with the capitalist class, the landlord class, in this case, against the best interests of the working people, of the working class in Berlin, in Germany as a whole. And we see that throughout history. Social Democratic Party, particularly, the leadership, more often than not, going to be on the wrong side of history on these types of issues. And this is just another, example of that, siding with the interest of, the capitalist class over a policy that would, again, disproportionately benefit the most vulnerable people, the most marginalized, the people who have been priced out of the, current housing market in Berlin. So not surprising that the SPD, the Social Democrats in power, are siding with big interests. That happens more times than not because Social Democrats are okay with a capitalist system. They just want capitalism with a human face. They don't want a revolution. They don't want to overturn the apple cart. They're okay because they're have these positions of power. They want to keep their status, keep their arrangements as is, to the detriment, again, of people getting rent control, their government subsidized housing. It's disgusting, but it's not surprising. Again, we see that time after time. The SPD's Franziska Giffey, who's in the pole position to be the next Berlin mayor, has spoken strongly against the idea. For me, the subject, again, this is straight out of line of the mouth of a capitalist, because again, that's what Social Democrats are. They are capitalists. They're for capitalists with a human face, just like AOC and Bernie Sanders. They support the Nordic model. They're not actually for socialism. They're not for having a dictatorship of the proletariat. So the needs of the many, so the needs of the masses are placed before the needs of a very few, which is what we have now under a capitalist system, just like they have in the just like we have in the US, just like they have in Germany. For me, the subject of expropriation is already a red line. I don't want to live in a city that sends a signal. This is where expropriation is. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Just say that you don't want people to have housing that they can afford. Just say that just be honest. Just be honest, right? I mean, Jesus. Yeah, so if it actually had the political and legal backing, this would at least 226 housing units in Berlin to be taken into public ownership. Public ownership. This can only be achieved through politically and legally controversial socialization law, which would have far-reaching significance and would be new legal territory. But again, I was going to do a quick Google search: housing prices in Berlin, Germany. So we get some type of reference of what exactly is going on here. Okay. Holy shit. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this article and share the one I just looked up to give a little bit of reference of what the housing situation looks like in Berlin right now. So why this law would be, have some impact. Let's see. So Berlin, this is from Guthman Real Estate. Anyone who made a property investment in Berlin 10 years ago looks back on the price increase of 197%. And you can guarantee the wages have not increased 197% in Berlin, in Germany as a whole, over that period of time, right? So people are being priced out of housing. The very similar thing happens where I live here in the Pacific Northwest. Housing prices, rent prices have skyrocketed over the past decade, particularly during the pandemic, actually, just making it very, unlikely that, the working class is able to actually, secure housing for themselves. As of, September 24th, the median asking price we've calculated is around €5,120, which corresponds to development of around 4.7% same period a year ago. Much less rental offers. Many landlords have lost confidence, put in sell their flats as soon as they became vacant. Here we go. Medium asking price, existing bill. So this is, I wish I knew what the conversion was, euros to dollars. Let me look that up real quick just to get a little frame of reference. Euros to dollars. Boom. Okay, €1 equals $1.17. So almost equivalent. Slightly. Euros were slightly more, as we can see from that. The rental segment has been getting smaller and smaller with declining overall volume for years, while the rental segment, so the rental cap is gone now. Here we go. What is that? Price segment. So the green is the real high end, and so that's increased, but the lower segment, as you can see, has decreased substantially. So this is median offer price. Just look at the increase, right? It just keeps going up and up. We saw that slight, pretty big downturn there. 10 euros per meter squared, square meter. Apartments for rent, Berlin. Communal cooperatives, I mean, that's pretty cool. Private companies, private persons, public institutions. So again, I think that is what this vote that the Berlin people just voted for would increase that public ownership of this 226,000 units that would be taken over by the government to provide socialized housing. Property prices in Berlin have been rising linearly for more than 10 years, with rising prices of the supply simultaneously decreasing. We've seen the same thing here in the U.S. Significant reduction of offers was measurable in 2019 with the introduction of the rent cap in the Corona year 2020. 2010, the median offer price in Berlin real estate was €1,500 meter squared. As of September 24th, wow, look, 11 years, that price more than tripled. That is insane. That is insane, right? Wow. Okay. This is very, very in-depth article, right? Yes. Okay, so that's a little bit of the backdrop of what the housing prices is. Let's go back to the article and finish that up. So, I mean, it doesn't frankly look like, unfortunately, anything's actually going to happen with this vote, even though the voters, supported this measure by, it seems like, a large margin. They did their part, but Social Democrats, others don't have the will, aren't in support of this. If a law was drafted, it would face legal challenges on several fronts. In September 2019, organizers passed a key stage when the Berlin House of Reps legal advisor said the proposal was compatible with German-based. Well, I mean, that's good, right? Some lawyers agree with the assessment, others differ. Were the Berlin Senate to pass an expropriation law, would most certainly be subject to various court challenges. In April 2021, German Federal Constitutional Court overturned the Berlin state government's decision to impose a 5-year rent cap. I mean, Jesus Christ. So then you have, again, the courts siding with big business, big real estate in this case, siding with the capitalist class over the interest of the working people, of the masses. Again, you see that time and time again in capitalist states, no matter how social democratic they may claim to be. Um, Jacob Hans Hein, a lawyer at Knuth, one of Berlin's leading real estate firms, believes an expropriation law would not be applicable in Berlin. Says that the target of only hitting companies or individuals with 3,000 apartments or more has no objective basis. I mean, that does seem pretty arbitrary, right? Um, he also foresees major issue with the question of compensation. Compensation well below the market value would be unconstitutional, he told DW. This is this outlet. Otherwise, the companies would not only be deprived of their property, but also suffer direct economic damage. The state must not enrich itself through expropriation. I mean, perhaps that's maybe how the German law sees it. That's how this German lawyer sees it. But I mean, the state should be working in the interest of the working people, of the masses, the landlord, the real estate class, the capitalist class, be damned. But again, that more often than not doesn't happen under a capitalist system, which Germany is very much a part of, right? Thinks it's more likely the Senate will use the yes vote as leverage to gain concessions from landlords rather than write an expropriation law. Well, again, the mayor, who most likely be the mayor we saw above, so of the Social Democratic Party, they're not in support of it. The Green Party seems lukewarm on the idea. Only the so-called far left party support it. If a law were actually prepared, he believes the federal government would come under pressure to enact their own law to override it, while he foresees a multitude of other legal hurdles. Jesus Christ. Since the property would be expropriated, not the entire company, an individual lawsuit would be, yeah, it's expropriate. That's the whole fucking company. Make sure everybody has housing. Make sure everybody has access to socialized housing, whether it be completely or partially subsidized. And it hardly anyone believes that a law will really be passed, says Hein, one of the firm's clients. Legally and practically, this was simply not feasible, but he says there are plenty of worries about other consequences. Yeah, so I mean, kudos to the people of Berlin voting for this. Obviously, it's just a step in the right direction. At least the vote, it shows that the public is on the side of this. But the political class, the capitalist class, seems like they're going to fight like hell to make sure this doesn't become a reality. And that's not surprising. That's what happens in a capitalist system. The social democrats, the Greens don't seem like they're very much in support of it. Of course, the conservatives, the far right parties, not going to be in support of this. And then these political party, their backers, the real estate class, the capitalist class, they're going to make sure this doesn't become law because this would cut into their profit. So that's why you need to get rid of capitalism completely. There's no such thing as capitalism with a human face. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it doesn't look like this will actually become enacted, unfortunately. What do you think? Let me know down below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more content. Peace. All part of the people. Much love.